In one of my last videos, I showed you how to create an imprint of my hand on a piece of linen with a machine that generates Elmos Fire. It's a shroud-like image, so what we want to do is to see if the bearing fibers are exactly the same as you would expect and as you see in the Shroud of Turin. Here we have 3 linen samples. This sample is completely untreated, so that means it's just cut from the big piece. Then we have a scorched and aged sample here. And here is the sample of our hand from the other video. Now if we look at this completely untreated, unaged sample and we put it on top of the hand, then you will see that where there is no exposure, you see that there is a difference in color. Okay, we're going to expose this sample after analyzing it, and then we look also at this sample when it is exposed sample. So we're going to look at it under the microscope. So we use this microscope, and then with the microscope we can have a little bit of more idea of what it's doing. So we put this perfectly unused material between these glass plates, and then we put it under the microscope. Okay, here we're looking at the piece of cloth that is untreated, the sample. You can see a plain weave. A plain weave means it's 1/1, most common weave that there is. You also see the warps and the wefts. The warps go from top to bottom, and the wefts go from left to right. As far as it looks, the wefts are from a different color than the warps in this linen, and well, even if it's untreated, it looks like, as you can see in the center of this, that there is a decoloration of the linen everywhere present, even on the untreated sample. Okay, we can go and look a little bit closer, and you can see now the fibers. So the threads are made of fibers. As you can see, the fibers are a lot thinner than the threads. One fiber could consist of about between 100 and 200 fibers. Yeah. Here you're looking at one thread from the piece, the sample of linen that was not exposed, not aged, so it is a new sample, and there is nothing that was done with this yet. And even so, you can see that there are some pollutions in there, some really black threads, probably those fibers. Those fibers, the black fiber, most likely is not cleaned yet, or maybe it is a pollution. Very difficult to say. Here you can see the warp and the weft. The weft goes from left to right, the warp from top to bottom, and if we remove some wefts, we only get warps, and the warps are white, as you can see, completely white. Here you can see the warps going from left to right and the weft from top to bottom, and I removed some warps. And as you can see, the wefts are all dark or striped in reality. So that is what the linen is that I'm using here. The warps and the weft have different colors. And what you can see here is that the wefts have white and also dark areas. With the light you can maybe do some more showing. Yeah, the wefts are like striped like this here. Now let's look at the stripe. Yeah, it really looks decolored. Good. We will disassemble one of those warps and one of those wefts and then see what the different fibers look like. Okay, here's the weft. We unroll it and then we pull the strings or the fibers like this, and then we try to see okay, I got this disassembled. Now we take the warp to see if there is a difference in the fibers. So this warp, we're going to make it a little bit bigger so that we can see it better. Okay, we look on top of it. This is under the microscope at 100 magnification. We can also see through it like this. Some bubbles, there is some dirt also, like you see here. This is the weft. I see some very heavy fibers in the weft. Also some pollution, some air bubbles. And here this one seemed to be very dark. So that is like a strand inside that weft that looks darker. If I look on top, then I see that it has another color. This is a 40 times magnification of the cloth of the hand imprint in the scorched area. And what we can see is that some fibers are exposed and some are just white. So the grayscaling comes from some fibers are exposed and others are not, just as in the Turin shroud. Especially look at the horizontal fibers, because the vertical fibers are the weft. And the horizontal fibers are white. So if a horizontal fiber is colored, then that is because of the scorching. We can know that for sure. Yeah, it's very clear. So that's a vertical fiber in the center. So that's a weft. So because the wefts are somehow colored, We cannot rely on that the coloring is from the scorching, but the horizontal one, like this one in the center here, we can be absolutely sure that the coloring is from the scorching. Now let's see at another magnification, this one. Okay, yeah. On the left you can see the new image from the hand cloth, and on the right you can see the original Turin shroud image. That picture was taken by Barry Schwartz in 1978 as part of the STURP program. The linen on the left is like the white is whiter. On the right you can see that the quality of the 2000-year-old cloth is way higher than the new cloth that I made. So the quality of the linen itself is a lot better. The original Turin shroud seems to be a little bit darker. Maybe if you wait 2000 years, all the white is going to be more or less like on the Turin shroud. That's possible. The left image was aged like 2 hours at about 175 degrees Celsius. And it's, well, in reality it's still whiter, so the aging doesn't seem to be the same. On the left side you can see that some fibers are colored, others are not. The same happens on the right side. On the left it's easier to see that only the top fibers bear the image. On the right that's not completely clear, but investigation concluded that that's what happened. But on the left you can really see that. Overall, I think I can conclude that the characteristics of the Turin shroud have a remarkable semblance with the shroud that was made with the Elmos Fire in my shed. While in this cloth the warps are white and the wefts are darker, we are going to remove a warp that has a scorched area. What we can see here, let me see if I can find a better one. Yeah, that looks very good over there, up there. This warp is quite scorched, as you can see. So we can remove this warp so that we can isolate it. Let me see if I can get a needle in this place and against, let me see, this is it. To the left, push down, push. Okay, we're gonna remove this warp, warp, yes, and look at it in detail. Here you can see the warp isolated and in the scorched area. So if we look further away, there's no scorching here. We go here and there is no scorching in the rest of the warp area, or very few, in the sense that where the warp comes out on the top of the cloth there is scorching, and if the warp is under a weft, there is absolutely no scorching, because we're looking at a kind of radiation caused scorching. This is the bottom side of our isolated warp, and there is no scorching to be seen. I will cut this image bearing fiber in half and then try to isolate the fibers and see what that gives me in my microscope. Somehow I managed to isolate some image bearing fibers on the left top here. Here they are. Let's see if I can separate them even more. These are 5 image bearing fibers prepared on the microscope. You can see that there is quite some yellow still, and on the right the fibers do not bear an image. So here you see the transition area between the fiber bearing and the non-fiber bearing. Maybe we can amplify that a little bit better, like this. Here you can see how this is image bearing and this is non-image bearing. I don't know if from this image you can conclude that the inner part of the fiber has no coloration like is mentioned in a paper, and that the coloration is only on the outer to 0.2 micrometers. We can amplify a bit more, of course. You see that it looks quite white, and you can see a little bit of the yellow shading on the edge. Yeah, this would be the coloration on the upper edge. Maybe that's visible here, or on the lower edge.